All right. Welcome, everyone, to the PIPCAST 3000. This is episode 23. This is a bi-weekly podcast where we talk about news and gaming news. I guess that's the same thing. We talk about gaming news and Fallout and junk. I think it's primarily going to be, maybe they'll be equal. Maybe it'll be equal news and gaming segments. I'm Caedo Genesis, and this is my co-host, BADCompanySarge.
Hi there.
And we have a special guest with us, returning once again, the legendary Tony Mo.
Thank you. Hello.
Was that good? Did I do okay?
Great.
So this is a mess today. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. And also, we actually have a tip of the day now. Nice. Thanks for whoever filled that in, because I didn't. So what's the tip of the day?
Tip of the day is to check your status effects and learn status effect symbols so that you know what's happening to your character. Nice simple one.
That's very valuable information, actually, because I still don't know what status effects are going on my character on the Outer Worlds.
Yeah, I need to learn all of that stuff. I don't bother though. I'm like, I can still use a sniper. I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay, so the news we're covering today, it's going to be a lot of stuff. We're going to be talking about the Game Awards that are going to be happening soon, like middle of next month. We're going to be talking about Death Stranding, of course, because we talked about it last week, at least me, being excited about playing it. We're going to talk about Google Stadia, and that's going to be a pretty sizable chunk. And we're going to talk about Anthem's overhaul, which Tony probably knows more about than both of us. And then Fallout 76's patch 15, and then Borderlands 3's patch and the Malawan takedown, and also the upcoming DLC that we were told about too. Half-Life Alyx, which was a big surprise to see, and and the Fallout 4 New Creation Club editions after 2 years. Fallout topic will be about mutants and mutations and stuff like that. We have a lot to talk about. If you have any contributions you want to have an opinion on and stuff in the comments, please do at any point in time. We will make sure to read it. Okay, I'm done talking for a minute.
So the Game Awards happen each and every year, and the nominees and stuff have all been shown. And as soon as I click on the right tab, I'll be able to see them. So I figure we'll just rapidly shoot through some of the bigger segments and give our opinions. So first up is the big one, Game of the Year, where you pick the game that was the definitive best this year, because we all know only one game is good and all others are trash. So what we have here is Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and The Outer Worlds. So, thoughts on the big one here?
Okay, what are we referring to as the big one?
Game of the Year. No, Game of the Year is the whole thing.
It's hard because they're all very, very different games. That's for sure.
They're hugely different.
It's that they're niche games too. It's not.
Yeah.
They're all in a very
it's not
specific
like
genre. Yeah.
If it was like Overwatch is on the list, Overwatch is
even
like
Resident Evil 2 and Control are probably the closest in terms of like if you saw a picture of their game screens, but when you actually play them, they're not even close.
Yeah. If I were to pick like what would be the most likely, I would probably go with Smash Bros.
I honestly hope Smash Bros wins just because it'd be cool to have a fighting game like win Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Personally, I would pick Control. Control was definitely my Game of the Year just because like I don't know, I played all of them. I think they're all fantastic. I think Resident Evil 2 is incredible. But yeah.
You played all these?
I played all these.
You're literally the most informed person out there. No one
like
else
Sekiro
has.
is amazing too, but like in terms of like what the game did for like, I guess, you know, when I think Game of the Year, I think of like exactly what it says. Recognize the game that delivers the absolute best experience across all of its creative and technical fields.
Yeah.
I think Control for that is me, like in terms of its core gameplay, the powers are amazing. I would say that maybe even like Control's like force powers, we're gonna call them, are better than most Star Wars games' force powers. Even the new Star Wars, which I finished and really enjoyed. Like that game is super satisfying, but then it has like this killer narrative and the atmosphere. Like rarely do you play a game where you like feel nostalgia for a time period that you never even like lived in, you know? Like that sort of like 1940s, 1950s like government bureau vibe is like really strong in Control. And I don't know, the whole game just like crushes it for me. Whereas the other ones, as much as I enjoy them all, I don't think they quite execute I mean, I guess Smash Bros does. Smash Bros is, but
like I was saying, like they all kind of have a niche audience, but it doesn't feel like a universal thing. The one that feels most universal is Super Smash Bros.
Yeah.
See, my problem with that though is it's just another Smash game to me. As someone who's not hugely into it, I have not seen anything where I'm like, wow, this is revolutionizing gaming and giving a brand new experience that is cool. It's like, no, they just made another Smash Bros. This happens.
It's just, I think even the Smash community would probably agree with that, because, like, I mean, in terms of, like, they're going to look at it, the hardcore Smash community is going to look at it from a technical standpoint as a fighter. And as far as I've seen with the Smash people, like, none of them have left Melee to go play Ultimate. I mean, some have because they've been forced to because Melee got dropped, but, it still hasn't, for the hardcore community, like, recaptured what made Melee so, so incredible.
I feel like it's gotten closer, but yeah, I can see that.
They're also going to just be, I mean, fighting communities, competitive communities are just incredibly picky, and they're also, I think, usually very bad at being, like, reflective. They just are so caught up in, like, that past. It's like people with Modern Warfare right now who think it's, like, the campiest COD, or, like, is this COD, or it has the most, like, balancing problems, and I'm just like, just go look at any forum thread from Modern Warfare 2 back in the day. You were all complaining about the exact same thing. It never changes.
That sounds
like
awfully familiar. Like we have to do with a community that does the same thing.
Yeah, it's just the way it is, So, but yeah, it's this is definitely like a hard. I guess it's a hard list, but if there were some other games on there, it would probably be like it would be harder, because some of these are just like immediate no's for me. Like I love Death Stranding.
Yeah.
I would never make that my game of the year. Outer Worlds.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like Sekiro.
I put no to Resident Evil as well, just because it is a remake. When you get right down to it, and I'm like,
I think
as good as it is as a remake, it's still a game that has been experienced before, even if in a different way.
Yeah, that's a hard one, because I do feel like it's like, to me it is a very technically impressive thing, like to remake an entire game to the point where it's like you feel like you're playing a completely modern experience, and it's super replayable. I guess it's just like I just personally liked Control more because it was easier for me to like finish the game, whereas Resident Evil 2 is just it's still very classical, in its game design, which is great if you have like the time that you used to have when you played Resident Evil 2 back in the day, but I don't anymore. So
I wonder if in a way it's a payoff for the work that the developers did as well, because there are other categories that have remakes and or remasters in them.
I just think they should have their own category every year for that at this point.
They probably should.
We've reached
at this
a point where it's like,
because it's becoming a regular thing.
They're already talking about like Resident Evil 3. That's like the most recent news. They're gonna just go on to the next one, I guess, and they'll probably do 4 after that. So it's like
nostalgia is so easy to bank on at this point. Like
they killed it though. I guess that's the big thing about Resident Evil 2, and at which point I hope it gets something, is that it like subverts those expectations of it just being a nostalgia like ride, and it actually goes on to be more than that. Like it's probably one of the best like modern survival horror games, even though it's not actually like originally made now. Like it's better than anything else we have in that category.
Yeah. I wanted to ask too, like what you guys thought about expansions being a rewardable thing, like expansions of games especially that have already received rewards.
You mean like if the expansion came out after like past this year, like into this year, it was like it just released this year?
Because I saw that Monster Hunter World Iceborne is up.
Just gonna say, is Iceborne up? Because I think it should be.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I mean, it's got to happen because so many games are being games as a service now that day one of a game is nothing like day 1000 of a game.
Yeah, and even
entirely different
traditional, like I guess you'd say Monster Hunter is kind of more traditional DLC, like back from like the 2000 eras and stuff, where it's just like, I mean, Iceborne, if it was 2005, probably could have been released as like a standalone, like expansion on its own. Like it's there's that much going on in there. So
it's under role playing game too, which it's up against. Man, it's up against some weird ones. Like it's such a broad category because it's got the Outer Worlds, Monster Hunter World Iceborne, Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 14. and Disco Elysium.
So it's just every sense of the term RPG.
It's every aspect of RPG.
I've had a problem for years now where the term RPG is worthless nowadays. Because it means anything. It's like, role-playing game, so you play a game as either a defined character or a non-defined character.
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
we're so far away from like those original connections to pen and paper, you know, where it meant like building a character and having all these like stat rolls. That's happened with a lot of genres, you know, in general, to be honest, is they're just completely detached.
I had a hard time determining like whether or not Monster Hunter itself was an RPG. It to me, it's more like a boss killing simulator, because that's if you want to put it in a box, which you know it doesn't fit very well in any box.
Yeah, it's hard because it has probably more heavy RPG elements than Kingdom Hearts has.
Yeah, I was gonna say it too, actually.
You know, so it's like it really is difficult. I mean, there's like, you know, crafting and preparation in Monster Hunter, like. It's right up there with like, you know, some classic RPG stuff. It's a very
it's got even MMO like elements to it. Like it doesn't play like one at all.
Yeah. That's kind of the hard part. I guess that's the hard thing with like these award shows in general, and probably why I've taken less interest in them is like I'd rather just like personally preach every single day like to people around me about the games that I loved and say like you need to play this, you need to play that, like you really should play Control. Because at the end of the Game Awards, like, it's cool, and I'm glad to see those people get recognized, but, you know, like, we can only have so many categories before. Like, if it was up to me, the Game Awards would take, like, 3 weeks to finish, because I'd be like, every game, there's so many games that deserve to be recognized individually. I would just make up categories for them, you know? Like, I couldn't do it, you know? It's just...
Yeah.
Best indie game that involves playing as a goose. Oh, not
goose game, oh, what do you know? Alright. Well, what do we got next? Action game, right? That's the next thing on there?
I was just kind of scrolling all over the place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Caedo's jumped through. I say we ought to go through, at least these next couple, because on Action game, we've got Apex Legends, Astral Chain, COD Modern Warfare, Devil May Cry 5, Gears 5, and Metro Exodus.
Okay, this is actually a broken category for me.
Yeah.
This doesn't make any sense. Like, why is like Apex Legends, Call of Duty shouldn't even be in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Call of Duty makes sense alongside Gears 5 is like a single-player game, so it kind of fits there. But Apex doesn't belong there. Apex, like, there should have been a category for just... I know there's a category for, like, long-running.
Yeah.
That fits there.
It might be in there, too, actually.
But then they probably... At this point, like, there's enough competitive FPS games. There should just be a competitive FPS category.
Yeah.
I mean, plain and simple.
Apex is on, I think, a couple more of them. It's down for community support, which is a nice category.
Yeah. I like that. But otherwise, like Astral Chain, Devil May Cry makes sense there. You know, I guess Metro makes sense there. Focus on combat, so I get it. I'm trying to think, what other games could be in here though? Like take out Call of Duty, Gears 5, and Apex Legends. Put them somewhere else.
I would say put Metro somewhere else if its stealth worked well.
Yeah, it's just that's a hard category. Like just action game. Astral Chain and Devil May Cry to me are just like they're two brawlers. Like that's a hard one.
Seeing as so many games focus on combat these days, it's kind of like why group
it's difficult.
80% of games together.
This would be a tough category because like I wouldn't it just having Apex in there I think is what really throws me more than anything, because like Call of Duty I would immediately just throw to the bottom of the list. I played the single player campaign, I didn't really give two craps about it. Metro was pretty freaking cool. Gears 5's campaign is incredible. Like I enjoyed it at least. I never got to play Astral Chain. Did you guys play Astral Chain? It looks amazing.
No, I saw stuff about it, and it does look cool, but...
I really want to, but...
It's the newest Platinum game, but, like, I can't get past the, like, hardcore anime aesthetic on a lot of
It's probably
games.
one of the only games, honestly. Usually I am the same way. Like, once I see that, I'm just like, eh. And plus, I think the thing is usually the gameplay that follows in line with that sort of aesthetic is, like, not my thing. Like, what was that Code Vein game that came out? That Souls-like. I played the demo for that, and I thought it was the worst thing ever. But there's a bunch of people who like loved it. I was like, this is terrible. Like the combat is awful. Like I don't know what is there to like redeem this game apart from cleavage. Like there's nothing here. It's awful. But then there's a bunch of people I know who like play Souls-like games who love it. So I was like, it just didn't click with me. But when I saw Astral Chain, I was like, before I even realized it was Platinum, I just thought the combat looked incredible to the point where I was like, okay, I can like.
And I'm usually drawn to Platinum games too. Like that's the thing.
Yeah, I'll have to play that one.
but even Nier Automata, like I still had trouble with the general aesthetics of the game. I loved the gameplay and the combat and stuff like that. Like I wasn't really into the like super high future story either, really. But the gameplay was fun. But that was like my only like factor that kept me around, kind of.
Gotcha.
And then like it started to feel like a slog, the multiple playthroughs kind of thing.
Oh god, yeah. There's like a million different endings for that game.
But but the different gameplay types that they had or different genres that they mixed into that game.
Yeah, the shmups and everything. That was they did a cool job with that. I didn't even realize the next category, by the way, is action adventure game.
Yeah.
Right.
They should just throw Gears 5 should be down there. That would make a lot of sense right off the get-go, because Gears 5 has puzzle solving. It probably has more puzzle solving than Borderlands 3 has, which has none. Like Borderlands 3, what are they considering a puzzle? I don't understand.
I mean, there was Pumpkin Puzzle with the latest expansion.
Yeah.
You have to shoot
That's confusing
pipes
to me.
occasionally.
Borderlands 3
has,
is
like,
way
very
more of
basic
an action game
Yeah.
than Gears 5, you know, in terms of that regard. So I don't know. That's a tough category, I guess, to push through. But I hope that. Man, yeah, that's a tough one. So now
the puzzle is how to kill Katagawa in 2 seconds.
Min-maxing, that's the puzzle.
It's just the shotgun. That's it.
Yep.
Just brainstormer him. He's dead.
I think they threw in the puzzle solving part because of Control.
Yeah, probably.
I
mean, in Death Stranding
and
is like
Resident
one
Evil
big
2.
puzzle, essentially. You know, like an environmental puzzle, like inventory management puzzle. Sekiro definitely no puzzles at all, but that's okay. I mean, I guess it's a Souls game. It's a From Software game. There are like some hidden things, but Resident Evil 2. I mean, if the category was based on who has the most puzzle solving, I think Resident Evil 2 would beat out all of them.
Yeah.
So puzzles. I like these next couple categories like more. That's like more in line, I guess, with like a category that I would make, like art direction, audio design, community support. Those are cool.
Yeah, I think that stuff as well is a bit easier to pop games into. Like art design, I actually don't like the fact Death Stranding's on here.
Yeah, I think
Death Stranding to me just looks kind of it's really good graphically and stuff, but I don't think of it as particularly artistic.
Yeah,
which
it's more focused on going for like mega scan texture photorealism, which is fine. But I feel like if you're gonna put Death Stranding in there, saying like the art direction, then I mean, I guess, but they're talking about animations as well too. So I guess
the art portion would come in like later, like during the later parts of the game, and especially like the parts with Unger. Like the cinematic.
I guess like you could say the
part.
BTs and like the design of the BBs and
But it's more specific.
Yeah.
For Death Stranding than it is for the rest of these games. Like Grief, for example, like throughout, it's an art piece. Like
hand drawn stuff.
And probably Sayonara Wild Hearts too, I would guess. And Link's Awakening, of course, the remake has a very cutesy style.
Technical achievement, artistic design, animation. Yeah, that's a tough one, man. I would probably end up going Control. I would probably vote Control personally, just because like kind of what I talked about earlier, where the aesthetic like just brings the whole world together so well. Like you go into the offices and there's like the old, green like LED green CRT monitors at everybody's desk and stuff, and I don't know, it just does it for me.
Is Control on PC as well?
Yep. Yeah, it was Epic Game Store.
I might actually, I still do want to try that one.
It's good, man.
I was interested when it came out.
I hope it wins Game of the Year just so more people know about it, because it's like super, 505, like kind of their first big like publishing outing. And I want to see that too.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that some really good great games like Control, which are just kind of like your single player experience, here's the game, it's really good, don't get too much coverage, because it's just, here's a really good game, next week something's falling to shambles, let's just cover all that.
Yeah, it's so wild too, the way, I think a lot of it is really consumer, like, consumption too, like you see people complaining about what happens with games as a service, but what are the number one selling games every single month? It's all the games as a service games, dude, and it's like, the moment, I even saw a comment, I know we'll get to Half-Life later, I saw somebody comment on Half-Life Alyx already and said, looks like it'll be good to play one time and then that'll be it. And I'm like, well, that's kind of what you do with a single player game. don't necessarily always need to have the urge to play through it 5 more times after that. Like, what does that even mean? Like I'll probably never replay Control because it was a satisfying, conclusion. Like, I saw it through. Why do I need to go back and, unless you're gonna speed run it or 100% it, like.
But here's the cool thing too. Like, if you experience a game and you love it and you like want to recommend it to somebody or want to like have somebody else experience that, get it for them too. Like, part of the thing that I probably worry about the most is that those games don't get enough money going their direction.
Yeah.
More so because games as a service are so high up there and so much more of an incentive for
everybody just cares
developers and publishers
about the moolah.
Yeah. So instead, like, I don't know if you know this, we had Sven on the PIPCAST a while ago. He actually came over for like a summer vacation type thing for like a couple weeks or something like that. But I ended up buying him and Monster Hunter World. I ended up buying him and Cody Monster Hunter World because that's how much I love the game.
Yeah, I feel you there.
I wanted more people to play it with.
I bought one of my buddies that came like a year after release. I bought it for him and we played it together. Same sort of thing. Audio design. This is actually.
Yeah, I really can't comment on audio design. First off, because I've just realised I haven't played any of these games on the list, but also because I just don't pay enough attention to what I'm listening to. Like, I'll notice some things, like Borderlands 3 has some amazing music in it.
It does.
But I often find that a game either sounds right, or it doesn't. And I'm not very good at more detail on that. I'm a
pretty big nerd when it comes to like audio details. It's usually stuff that I notice. It's hard because like every single one of these games has like a certain thing, like the like sound effect in Death Stranding.
Oh, it's
I was actually reading a thing from the guy who worked on it, and he made basically his goal. Him and Kojima sat down with him and said, like, I want it to sound like someone giving a thumbs up. Like, like how do you make that into an audio note? And that's what they came up with. And then when you see the little cutscenes in the game where someone does like 2 thumbs ups and they pop up, you're like, oh, it sounds so good.
Yeah, Heartman.
Yeah, I love it. And then but then you got like Call of Duty, which is like a really visceral audio design. Like, I actually love that game's audio because like nothing else is like it. You play any game all day long, right? And then you jump into like multiplayer and Modern Warfare, and suddenly you're just like, oh my god, I forgot. This game's just like crunchy and loud and like not in a bad way necessarily either.
Yeah.
Like, you really do like just have to like maybe turn down your headset for that game over every other game. Not because it's just being obnoxious, but because it's just really just trying to like deliver like every single thing that happens in the game. Like, you fire around, a casing lands on the concrete, you hear it. It lands on like the steel floor of like a grate in a building, you hear it. Like, there's just so much detail and so many different like audio effects, and you hear them all somehow. It's like, that's definitely an achievement within itself, I think.
Yeah, I only have experience with Death Stranding for this for that category, but like you could tell like going through it, because I only played it like last weekend, all the way through. But you could tell like everything was deliberate in the sound design in Death Stranding. At least that's how it felt. Like, all the way down to like the various nature like sound effects going on. Like, you're meant to take it all in, both visually and audibly.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. I think in general, like in the AAA department, like their audio teams are usually pretty impressive, like groups of people, where it's like every little note to them, like as far as the budget and like the time constraints the development cycle will allow them, they're like finding ways to like make that like next like little audio thing that you never forget. I mean, think about like all the games you played over the years. Like, there's all pieces of audio design that you'll like never forget. Like one of the big ones for me is in World of Warcraft, when you accept a quest, that heavy like clunk that it does.
Oh yeah.
And then
the
like the soft like echoey tune afterwards, like dunk, like like dude, instant nostalgia every time I hear that. You know, it never gets old.
I got from Final Fantasy VIII the on the main menu when you go up and down and then the selecting an option, the little I put that into a series I made because it is just the perfect little sound effect for such a simple thing of just scrolling through, selecting it.
You know what
Nice.
game should be on this list, and it would just beat everybody out every single year for eternity, is Half-Life. Every single audio sound in Half-Life is from the sound when you go to switch to a weapon that is empty, to the healing, the shield regenerator, the sound of you dying in the game, that, ear ringing that happens. It's just a never-ending list of unforgettable pieces of audio.
Yeah, I feel like we've already spent a ton of time on this one topic. Was there any other main? I mean, audio is a big one, but the rest of them get pretty.
There's too many, like you said. I mean,
pretty niche.
Probably better that we don't
towards
go
the
through.
bottom. Oh, let's make sure to go over best mobile game. We can't forget.
Oh yeah.
Just kidding.
No. I will tell you right now, because my phone only has one mobile game, which is Snake Xenia. So I am declaring that the best mobile game of now and forever.
Well, at least they actually got some good games on there. I know half these are on that new Apple. I don't have an Apple device, so I can't play Grindstone and Sonara, but that's cool that those are on mobile. At least some decent stuff coming out of there.
There are obviously a lot of good games on here. There's also categories for esports, which I'm not fully down for, and performances in video games, which I'm a bit more down for, and content creator they've put in as a category as well.
Which is not actually content creator, should just be called streamer.
Oh yeah.
Because they're all streamers.
I've heard of one person on the list.
I know 4 of the 5. They're all streamers, though. It says, for a streamer or content creator who has more an important and positive impact on the industry. I'm disappointed to not see people who actually make content that is hyper-focused on the industry, helping the industry. These people are all great, and I know Lupo does a bunch of donate, they all do donation stuff. Of course they do. They have massive channels. It'd be insane not to. But why there's no one on there who's actually I don't know, helped raise awareness for why isn't
I've got my pick.
What's his name?
Danny Dyer.
Kotaku. Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say no clip. Why aren't they on there?
Perfect.
Why don't you have even why don't you have a journalist on there, dude? Throw what's his name on there from Kotaku, Jason Schreier. That man has done so much for the recent surge of unionize, let's unionize in the industry, and really help.
Using one of his articles as a reference.
Yeah, it just kills me. You want to talk about people who have made a positive impact, being a good person and donate, great. That's of course that's positive. But in terms of actually influencing the industry substantially, none of these people have really done that. They're just they're positive entertainers. That's great. They should be by default. We shouldn't be promoting people who are heads, but this is
the standard we want as just normal, not as this is our best.
It's a tough category, because you should respect those people, but like you said, the fact that NoClip isn't on there, in terms of YouTube, just blows my mind.
Yeah, I watched the one about the ratings over in America that you get on games.
Yeah, the ESRB thing.
About that.
Yeah, he just did
ESRB. That was brilliant.
That's the first time anyone's
really nice.
ever got to go behind doors, man. Can you think of a more influential thing?
Oh no, but these guys play video games sometimes. Lots of people watch them. So we'll go for them instead.
We're still too focused. As the communities around the industries are still too focused on the entertainment itself and not the discussion that should be, happening from the creation of the entertainment or the people who make the entertainment. We're not going deep enough yet. We need to.
Yeah, well, the viewers kind of reflect that too, sadly.
This is true. These are people who play games and are completely unaware of any of the social references in any of the games. So,
we talked about it a little bit already.
Yeah, it's a game that I have not touched, but you two, I understand, both love. So I'm going to hand this over to you.
So Tony,
you
happen to complete Death Stranding.
I did. It only took me 55 hours.
Did you do all of the deliveries too?
No.
Okay. I didn't either.
It would have took me another 50 hours, man. Another 50 hours for sure.
How many stars did you get on your pants?
I don't even know. They put stars on your pants? I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, once you hit maximum affinity with one of the people you deliver for.
Oh, I didn't even pay attention to that, to be honest.
Get a little star icon on your uniform.
Yeah, I had no idea it was a thing. Go figure.
Yeah, I only tended to work for the ones that made gadgets that I wanted the upgraded versions of.
Yeah, I don't know that I actually ever even like maxed anybody out when you mentioned that, because I would just like get whatever first gadgets they got, and like by the time you got to the point in the game where they were really starting to like give out gadgets left and right, I was just kind of like, I'm just gonna keep like moving through because I got to finish this before Star Wars comes out, because I really don't need another game in my backlog. And it was like, I'm enjoying it, but I also like, I just want to finish it. That was like the problem with that game that I had. It was like
the time crunch feels bad.
It's just 30 hours too long, man. Like,
yeah, but it's Death Stranding. That's part of the like divisiveness of the game itself for a lot of people, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't have a problem with the pacing of, you know, like, I get that not everybody's gonna like a game where you just walk around and deliver stuff. That's fine. Like, nothing wrong with that. And you don't have to be some like, you know, ridiculous, you know, absurd galaxy brain genius to enjoy it either. You just some people just like walking around. Like, I like bull like that in games, you know, like,
and also knowing that, like, you know, 10-15 hours of your first part of the game is going to be mostly that, and then only after that point does it start actually picking up. I think it's like after chapter 3 or something like that, or episode 3, I think.
And even then, it's kind of like they just give you a few more bits, right? Like, you get like some of the, you know, the rifles in the game, but it's still kind of like, I guess I was surprised when I saw people before I played it like being like, oh, if you make it to Act 3, like, it gets better, because I was like, I don't really think it got better. The story just started, I guess, to engage with you a little bit more.
I think that's what they're mainly talking about, is like there was more things. You started learning that there was more actually at stake.
Yeah.
Or that the stakes were getting higher, I guess.
Yeah, the story starts to like unthread a little bit more, which to me it was like, I told everybody who's like asked me about the game, I was like, if you don't like it after the first like 3 hours, you should probably just stop, because if you don't enjoy that core, like, I don't think any amount of narrative is gonna pull you through having to just walk 15-20 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
With luggage on your back, especially if you don't enjoy that, then you're gonna get frustrated, which means you're gonna make mistakes all the time, and it's pretty easy to not like mess up in that game if you're patient.
Yes.
You know, it's like,
if you also are open-minded with the tools that you're given.
Yeah, you know,
there's that too.
And then, like, you know, obviously looking out for people who are putting things around you. I just think, like, as much as I liked the game, I think the game could have been exponentially better had it been like half as long, and then actually maybe 1.5 times more difficult. Because I actually found it on the hardest difficulty, it wasn't like hard enough. You know, it was more so, like we're just saying, it was always just a test of patience. Like, of course I can make it through this field of BTs if I take my time. You know, you always just felt like it was more like the game was pushing your buttons in those moments of like, you can fail here if you rush, you know. And if it was 30 hours long and the narrative felt like it was actually unfolding over a 30-hour period, I would have done more side stuff, and I would have been comfortable with the game being much more challenging at that point. Like, even taking down the mule camps, you know, I never even bothered with stealth, dude. I got a vehicle, I drove in, I stole the stuff, and I drove out. I think there was only one mission where you had to deal with like multiple mules who had like the parts for that one gun. And with that, I literally just intentionally aggroed them with my strand, and then just parried all of them with the strand. Yeah. And they just fell in a pile. There was like 12 guys like in a pile. I took all the loot, just got on my bike, was like, bye. So, yeah, you know, I just think it was a bit of a pacing issue, but overall, I think it's impressive to make. You know, I think we see with indie games a lot, right? They make like these sims that are very focused on doing like a mundane task, but people love it. You know, all the trucking games, even like what's that mud game? You know, where you like do it's made by that Russian or like Croatian dev team, Spin Tires. People love that game, and it's like it's a 4-wheel driving game with like you know, terrain deformation and stuff like that. You get stuck on the side of hills, like trying to carry logs to somebody's house.
Oh, cool!
It's super tedious, but like when you execute it in a way where like those individual elements can be like an actual challenge, it becomes fun and rewarding, and that's like totally Death Stranding for me. I would love a sandbox version of the game where I just woke up to different deliveries every day.
Yeah,
like count me in for that.
Yeah, that makes. Well, there is the play after you complete the game too, like go back and do things afterwards, which I also appreciate, because I know for a fact like I'm going to go back. But I think the biggest main thing, of course, that Kojima was trying to like drive home was not just, you know, telling a good story, but also the bringing people together aspect that is hard to describe to a lot of people, I think a lot of the time. and it's that, or the more players that make like structures and bridges and chargers and zip lines and stuff like that, make it easier for everybody following.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the coolest parts of the game.
And even the building roads thing. Like, the first players had it the hardest, and it will always be that way now. Like, and that's something that I feel like should be considered too. Like, the reviewers had it at its absolute hardest state, whereas those of us who played it even a few days after release had it a whole lot easier.
See, what I did see too though was like a bunch of people who got to play it early, like Danny O'Dwyer got to play it, Jason Schreier played it early. They said theirs was actually pretty well populated, because that's what I thought too initially.
Oh,
yeah,
was?
they were playing with a bunch of people for weeks, so they had like the same experience we had basically, where it started off pretty rough, but then like for me, by like the third day, I started seeing some roads pop up finally. But honestly, there still weren't roads. Like when I finished it Thursday night. I had to go off road for like, the final like long haul type thing you do. I'm not gonna go into detail on it.
Yeah, I know.
I only had like a tiny section of road for that, man. In my world, I was like, damn, dude, this is gonna be rough. Like there was more road, but yeah, that's what I heard from people who got to review it. Like they pretty much had like an identical experience in that regard. But I do think that should still be, like you're saying, I think that's probably one of the coolest things about that game. Like, you take a game like Dark Souls and like Journey, with those like asynchronous experiences. This is probably like my favorite demonstration of that sort of thing, where you really did feel like, damn, dude, that's like so cool. Like I came up here, that guy had built one zip line, I finished it, and now we got this crazy zip line like empire going through the mountains. Like, so satisfying. I think that actually is a better job of his sort of theme of like connecting people than the game itself. Like the whole idea of like, go deliver these packages, you're bringing these people together. I'm just like, yeah.
I mean, it kind of complements. They kind of complement each other in that way.
That was like a more powerful, because I mean, it's real people. Like the difference between like some NPCs that you just connected to a network, and like actual players. When you reveal those networks, being able to see the other player structures, that's probably like one of the most powerful parts of the game. Like super cool.
Zip lines themselves were a game changer, but also like if you're up in the mountains and stuff like that, getting your little hover cart and just like surfing all the way down.
Dude, I didn't do any of the snowboarding stuff because I was like, I didn't really watch too many videos of it, and I was convinced it would just be like an instant death trap. And then I saw people like blasting off of like cliffs and stuff with it like later on, and I was like, oh, I probably would have been fine.
No, like there's barely any mortality to it. It's just like,
I was just like,
it's just like
I've died tripping on like a single rock on the side of a cliff trying to get on a zip line on a rope. I'm like, I'm not snowboarding. Get out of here.
Yeah.
So I didn't know.
But also, I want to say how amazing the memes are that came out for that game shortly afterwards too.
I haven't seen too many of them. I mean, I saw.
Oh my god!
I saw that one piece of artwork that what's that guy? He always does. He does like a lot of Mortal Kombat. He does like fun crossover stuff. But he did the Mandalorian, and he's got Baby Yoda inside of a BB tube on his chest. It's like the coolest looking thing ever, man.
That's funny. But yeah, in the Death Stranding subreddit, like, all I see a lot of the time are like it's mostly like helpful posts, fan art, and then memes. Like there's not much in between.
That's funny.
And that's like my ideal like community for a game too, by the way.
Oh,
like,
yeah, 100% people just having like a good time about it.
Yeah.
Sharing some helpful
like, tips. Yeah, it very much reminds me of like the Monster Hunter World and the Meme Hunter. Like they had to make their own like memes.
So many memes.
Subreddit.
That's funny.
But I can see Death Stranding like Meme Stranding or something like that turning into a subreddit. Like that's probably one of my favorite things too. Like after you play the game, just even just like TikTok videos of people wandering around with a crap ton of boxes on their back.
Yeah.
Like
every time anybody sees anyone carrying anything now, there's like a immediate Death Stranding post. It's too funny. Yeah, it was good. I'm glad I played it. I actually look forward to playing it when it releases on PC, because I'll just do like a save hack and have the game be finished, and I'll just go back and play it on like ultra and ultra wide and just do the sandboxy part of it.
Yeah.
I honestly think for anybody who like is waiting to play it on PC, who's like maybe super lukewarm about it, that'd be like the best thing about it coming to PC, is that within the first couple, like, first week, someone will just have a save file where the game's complete. So if you're not interested in like finishing it, actually, you could just have it be finished and then just go deliver packages.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
That's what I did.
Or definitely a thing that will happen.
Yeah, so that would be, it's an interesting game. I think like if it's one of those things where if it was just an indie game with like just that mechanic, there'd just be a bunch of people who really enjoyed it and played it. And obviously when it's a AAA game and it's Hideo Kojima, there's a lot more like conversation, discussion around it. But it's cool. I'm glad it got made. I do wish that Kojima would be a little less obsessive with like big names in his games and like give some.
Yeah.
There's like so many amazing actors and actresses in the industry. I mean, look at like Roger Clark even, who ended up playing Arthur Morgan in Red Dead. He was like a no-name actor, dude. That game gave him like so much exposure as an actor. Like, like what happened to that stuff? Like, why all of a sudden does everything have to be? I mean, he's just a very self-indulgent individual, and I don't even mind it. Like most of the time with like the millions of pop culture references in the game, the fact that like every data chip you collect is a film from the 1950s.
Yeah.
But like with just endless amounts of actors, I will say the funny thing about it is seeing like high profile actors deliver just the most ridiculous lines that he comes up with.
Yeah.
Like there's some lines in Death Stranding in the most serious moments where you're just like, wait, did they just say what I think they said? I just watched Norman Reedus and what's her name just say these lines, it's just wild, man.
Was it Famitsu? What was the thing that I linked you, Sarge? I can't remember.
You're talking about like the whole like Famitsu like praising the game even though the dude like is in the game.
Yeah, like the conflict of interest thing.
Yeah, the ex editor at Famitsu is in the game.
I was like, that's a bad idea.
He just doesn't care, man.
Like out loud.
He does not care. Monster. I was so glad when I got past the Monster Energy drink phase of the game, if you know what I mean. And had something else on my table in my room.
Yeah.
All right. That's
that part's great too. I didn't even I think I only went to that place once, so I wasn't able to get the other drinks.
Yeah, oddly enough, that was one of those places I ended up taking like a lot of trips to. I think it's because I had a really good route figured out, and like I got there really fast, so I just started doing these runs on it, and I was like, man, this is a great route.
Yeah.
But
and once there's some spots where especially if you have level 2 thing.
Yeah.
Like if you carry several of those with you and just pop up zip lines wherever you feel like you're going to be going back to.
Yeah, I did that.
I remember doing that around the labs area too.
I did that all in the end of the game towards the mountains. I think most of the early stuff I'd never ziplined. I just did like road stuff, which actually that's a really cool mechanic that game does that I don't think a lot of people even know about. Is that the more players drive a specific path, it actually clears the rocks and makes paths.
Yeah, that part is really cool.
Super cool, man. Just an awesome little idea. Like that's really going to be one of those things you play the game a week from now even. You're going to notice stuff like that.
Yeah, the landscape's gonna change. Like, it's one of the coolest things. Anyway, I think we talked enough about Death Stranding.
I'm good. We're gonna talk about the streaming thing now.
It's freaking 48 minutes in now.
We are gonna have to zoom through the rest of them.
You know, one thing you shouldn't Google.
Stadia, however they're pronouncing it.
Yeah, the biggest question of all is Stadia or Stadia?
I hear Stadia.
I'm gonna forget you real quick, yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
So,
my thing with Stadia from the beginning has been, I don't care. We don't need it.
Yeah.
It's a solution to a problem that doesn't exist, and also with Google these days, I'm just like, it's just another way to get something in your house where they can listen to everything you have to say. So they can sell your data to more advertisers and make more money off of you, regardless of how unsuccessful this streaming service is. Like, is the idea of being able to just like boot up a game and play it instantly cool? But I think like more of us need to reach a point where we ask ourselves like, how much is that convenience worth?
Yeah.
Because we're like, we already have one too many luxuries in life. Like, we can just go somewhere and have somebody make a cup of coffee for us, for God's sake. Like, it literally takes 5 minutes to make a cup of coffee. But if you told somebody tomorrow that we're going to close down every coffee shop ever, and you're never going to be able to buy a cup of coffee, people will lose their minds. Like, it's just like a luxury. And I just don't need the luxury of like not having to like install a game. Like I don't care that it takes like 30 or 40 minutes or maybe even a couple hours depending on your internet connection. Like that doesn't faze me.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to give
here's the thing as well.
that up.
If you've got a bad internet connection, then you're the person who has the biggest trouble with downloading stuff, like I had with something we'll be talking about later. And I can't use Stadia.
It's not going to solve your problems anyway.
I'm going to do an internet test right now to show.
Even like even the best internet connections, which is what a lot of people saw when they were reviewing it, they're not stable. Like you're even on a VPN. Like I'm on a VPN, my stuff still gets like dropped. Like your provider can throttle your stuff whenever they damn well please, man.
The PC Gamer article that we've linked, all the links are down below, by the way, of the stuff they're talking about. They were like, we don't know who this is marketed for. Like that's kind of the main thing that especially a lot of people like that are trying to review it and stuff like that are saying, like, this doesn't seem like it's for gamers.
No.
It doesn't seem like it's for regular people who stream other things. Like where does it fall?
The big thing too. I saw like a really good point on this, like, because we're all, like you're saying, we're all like, people who play games already looking at this. But even if we don't want it, like big corporations like Google, it doesn't matter, because if they want something to stick enough, like if they want something to stick badly enough, they'll make it stick. It's just like about how much money in marketing are they willing to throw at this to start getting it in people's homes who don't know any better. I mean, you think about a lot of the crap that's on TV. Like, I love cooking shows, but Food Network is like the ultimate cooking show channel nightmare, because it's just one rehashed show after the idea after another. Is anyone subconsciously actually ever going to say, like, yeah, I totally want to watch another Halloween baking championship? Oh, wait, now they've got 3 weeks past Christmas baking championship, and they're going to have a It's Sunny on Friday baking championship. Like, no one actually needs or wants that, but they just shove it in your face, and because the way, like, cable is still set up, people pay for it anyway. Like I could see like a thing like Stadia getting to that point, especially with like Amazon now supposedly coming in the game. Just wait till they're trying to like shove it down our throats until we can't even say no, because they can if they want to.
It might.
I hope it just goes away. But
here's what I would. Let's see. How would they even get it to work? I'm sure there would be a way, because they have. So the other thing is the amount of launch titles, the limited number of launch titles they have. Even though they nearly doubled them since they announced it, like,
well, you gotta buy them all over again.
You have to buy them all over
they're
again.
This like,
and you're still renting.
Yeah, they're even more distanced. Like, there's like the digital side of Steam, but at least Steam, like, the files are on your PC. Like, people have access to these files on the internet still. Like, you're talking about literally no ownership whatsoever. Yeah. Over these things, like, completely gone.
And that bugs a lot of people like me.
Dude, I get upset about the fact that like digital for me became basically, especially on the Xbox, it was just like a money thing. Like the fact that I could do family share with my brother was like great. Like him and I don't have to buy 2 copies of a game. It was just a matter of saving money. Otherwise, I would have bought hard copies for everything. Because I think about it now, and there's like young people entering my life, and I'm like, God, I wish I could just give them this game that I've already played a dozen times that I don't need. It's like having a digital version of a book that you could never share, like, because there's a license attached to it. It's bound to account. Like, that would suck. Like, I want to be able to give that to someone else, and we're just getting like even further away from that. Yeah,
I'm wondering because of solid state getting to the place that it is, I wonder if there could be like a weird happy medium of being like able to get a library of games, or even like a game or two on a solid state anything, and order that instead of getting, because stuff doesn't fit on disc anymore, obviously.
You buy a disc case and it's just the download inside. It's like, I don't mind the digital side of it, I guess. It would just be cool to like push. We're never gonna go back that route. It's like already gone and over with. But it would be cool to see like digital push to a point where we like have that ownership, even though we paid for something digitally, and we can share that, in a way that isn't, considered pirating.
Because that's the thing that would be a concern. With that kind of because it's
like otherwise. I mean, obviously, I don't expect them to be like, yeah, you could just share it with anybody ever. That doesn't work. But like I guess Steam and Steam kind of did that. Steam has their family share stuff. I do that with my brother and another friend. Like, you can share your Steam library, and as long as you're not playing the game actively, they can play it. But it has to be like, you have to bind to their PCs essentially.
Yeah, I don't know if we even. My bad. If we didn't really even clarify what the Stadia actually is, it's a gaming streaming service.
Yeah, that you link to like.
I know we're so far into the topic at this point.
Chromecast or whatever.
Yeah, but it's coming with, as of right now. I think it just came out like.
It's 2 days ago, a day ago.
Like a few days ago, if we're
still
coming
shipping.
out on Sunday, and it's got 22 games available.
Wow.
On launch. 22. That's
less than I currently have installed.
And only recently did it add like 10 of them.
Yeah.
And it's another
like,
platform. That's like the craziest thing about this to me is like, you're already sitting there probably being like, platform. Oh, I'm on Xbox, my friends are on PlayStation 4. Well, what if they're on Stadia? Guess what? You're screwed because there's no crossplay support on any of the games that matter.
None.
Destiny 2. You want to know how many people were playing Destiny 2 Trials the other day on Stadia? 42 people. There were 13 people playing Gambit.
That was close.
Like, and it's stuck. You can't even play it. It has no crossplay.
Yeah. Well, even just standard multiplayer.
Crazy.
With the severely low player numbers on Stadia.
You can't do anything. Like
yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the thing. People like to get.
We don't know who it's for.
Yeah. I get like people like to get excited about the tech, but sometimes I'm just like, but who cares? You know, like. There's plenty of exciting things. Just because someone comes up with like a technical progression point doesn't mean that we need to immediately look at it and adopt it and be like, this is the greatest thing ever. Because sometimes things suck. Like when Blu-ray was battling HD DVD, we didn't just immediately jump to the gun and be like, well, HD DVD was first. So this is clearly the best thing ever. No, we were like, but it has like a quarter. It has like barely any more gigs than a regular CD drive. Why would we use that? You know? And then we went to Blu-ray. Like. Not everything has to be the next best thing, even if it sounds great.
Yep. and it doesn't even really sound great too.
Yeah.
So.
I just personally could care less. Like we were saying about the convenience thing, it's just not a convenience that I feel the need to chase.
Yeah. But so, speaking of things that are awfully convenient, maybe a little late actually. But why don't we talk about Anthem?
Yeah, I can probably honestly get us through this pretty quick because.
Okay.
So I mean, I like a lot of Anthem. You know, I was excited for the game. I think there's some cool things there. Unfortunately, their like whole development process up until launch was an absolute just bloodbath. Like whoever was there before Casey came back did a real shitty job because we found out, you know, like a while back that basically they were sheltered from like everything. They're told to make this game that's going to compete on a market with all these other games like Diablo and Destiny and The Division, and then they're like, no, you can't look at those games. Like the single dumbest thing someone at an office has ever said to anyone else in the video game industry, right there. Like no idea why that ended up going that way. So this planned overhaul is basically like they don't know when it's coming out. They don't even know how they're going to release it yet. If it's going to be like a standalone thing, if it's going to be free or paid, they have no idea. Other than it's seemingly a massive overhaul of like all of the core components of Anthem, which there's a lot of people who still play the game, who like have dedicated Anthem channels, who I'm like friends with, who like have been enjoying the game and playing it and be like, oh, it's good. But I've pretty much, since I put like 150 hours into it, hit the point of like, no, like this game's core is fundamentally broken. Like flying is fun, no doubt about it. Game has some amazing mobility mechanics. It's a good thing that they added those into the game in like the last year, because it's the selling point of the game for me. I wouldn't even have cared about it otherwise. But the rest of the game just isn't functional like as the experience needs to be. It's supposed to be this loot RPG, and while there is loot and some of it's cool, the mass majority of it is just garbage. Like there's no opportunity for builds. You know, you need that core chase of like go out, get stuff, okay, make a new build. While you have like the template there for like the amount of variety you would expect with the different javelins. Like I think those the javelins are really cool. Like on their own, they're handled really well. They have their own, you know, like strengths and weaknesses. They even have some cool mechanics. But once you start like attaching parts and guns to the javelins, like it just doesn't get any more interesting is the biggest issue.
Yeah, I was seeing a lot of like repetitious like animations and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's like it's not even so much like just like I guess the best way to put it would be like there's like when you get to like the legendary weapons, an example for the game, like putting aside the visual side of it, like the guns not looking like they're actually legendaries, the actual like statistical benefits of them are really poor too. So it's like not only are you getting a game where like there's a bunch of legendaries and they don't actually look that much cooler than like their regular versions, but the perks they have are just like very mundane. Like,
are they like more numbers game?
Yeah, very few of them
perks?
are like, do something cool or like extravagant. There's a few things in there, don't get me wrong, but the majority of them are just like really, really, really basic stuff. Like stuff that you would expect to just be like, more of a stat modifier than like, this is a legendary weapon. They started to add some of those guns in. You could tell that those guns were like sitting there just scrapped because the game had to get thrown together so quickly in the last like 14 months. And they started like dragging some of those things in, but it's just not enough, like when something's fundamentally broken, like, if you got an old car and the frame is literally cracked in half, you can't just like throw a couple rods on it, bolt them together, and then start putting performance parts on the car and expect it to like make the noticeable difference you need it to make. That's literally Anthem in a nutshell. Was like, here's all these cool new legendary guns that like fire like volt beams and laser blasts, and you're like, okay, that's great, but everything else around is still very dull. So I hope for the best for them. Like, I know that the team that is there now is very like set on looking at the environment around them, looking at games like Destiny, and they've got a lot of good community feedback. There is still like a small core community, fortunately for them, and the fact that EA is still willing to like keep throwing money at the wall for this game blows my mind. Honestly, I just thought they would be like, it's done and over with. So that's cool to see Casey Hudson.
That's a bit surprising.
Yeah, still there, being like, we're gonna like make something happen here. A lot of people have left too. A lot of people have like moved on. A lot of them have also been at BioWare for like 15 plus years. So probably a good time to like decide and say like, do I want to be on board for this overhaul, or do I want to, go work on something else?
I imagine a lot of people were mentally bankrupt by that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, even if you were positive about that experience,
or creatively, I should say.
Or even if you felt it was a positive experience, even though, you had like, a failing, which is fine. Everybody fails, like you're saying, it had to be exhausting. No doubt about it. So yeah, that's that. Good luck to the team. I hope it turns it around, because I really like the flight mechanics in that game, and I like a lot of the ideas they have. It just needs to be reworked.
Well, another game that's trying to do quite a hefty turnaround is Fallout 76.
Hey!
Which had patch 15 released earlier this week, which was literally just bug fixes. Like, I am the Fallout 76 YouTuber here, and I didn't bother covering this because it is... How many pages is this thing? It's like 3 or 4 pages of just, here's all of the bugs we are fixing.
Dude.
And
That's impressive, actually. Jesus.
It's all they're focusing on right now.
This is what they need to do before the Wastelanders thing happens.
Right, they delayed that?
I think they're actually finally catching up with themselves and being like, oh, we actually need to look good.
Yeah. The plan really now is just to get 76 in a more friendly state for everyone, have Wastelanders launch, and hopefully have that as like a soft reboot of the game, which draws in a lot of people who are originally like, 76, screw that. Which could happen, but at this point, the game's had such bad press.
Yeah, I think
it's going to be difficult.
I think it'll be fine at this point if it's just like, if it just keeps building for like that core audience that already enjoys it, and bring some of them back. Because I like the game. I mean, it's not like my favorite Fallout game ever, but I had a lot of fun playing it with friends. And like, if Wastelanders ends up being this really cool update, I'd come play it again.
Yeah, it's the aspect of playing with other people. Like, that's what brings me back to it. Because like, even like the other day when Union was like, hey, I'm gonna be up like when I get home. Eric and I are gonna be playing. You want to play? And I'm like, yeah. But it's because, and all we ended up doing was launching ourselves off of his house.
Yeah, that was like about a solid hour, where in total 5 of us were just on someone's camp that was at the top of the sky, and a lot of trying to fling Caedo. And I successfully flung myself. I'm gonna pop that Twitter vid up at some point. I did a little one of you trying to get flung and just plummeting off the edge. It was a lot of fun, and we did absolutely nothing productive whatsoever.
Nope, I actually used up pretty much all of my junk making explosives to blow myself up.
Yeah. It was a lot of junk
like
that's
a good
wasted.
time to me.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. And another game that's fun with friends is Borderlands 3. Which, yeah, I'm doing all the segues. We're getting through this now.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, what's this? What's this What's the takedown thing? I heard about that.
Malawon Takedown is a new update which has just gone live and which we aren't playing right now, which is kind of disappointing because
You think we should be playing it right now, Sarge?
Man, I wanted to play it last night, but the download was taking so long because I checked my internet, 23 megabytes download, 6 upload right now, which is the highest I've seen it in months. So, yeah. I had to.
Hamster's really running on that wheel right now.
Yeah, that's fast internet. It's described as well. Like, Stadia's not going to take off in the UK, that's for certain. But no, Borderlands 3, the Malawon Takedown is just a bonus mission by the sounds of it, kind of a raid-style mission.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because it's designed for, like, top-tier or top-level groups. Actually, I'm planning on playing it with Caedo and TONEY. You're more than welcome if you're free.
I am not
At any
nearly
point
geared
playing
enough
it.
for that, but I finished Borderlands 3.
Yeah.
We did like a little bit of like some of the mayhem stuff, but then at that point, like
Yeah.
Destiny 2 expansion dropped, and so we all kind of went over there.
You can see if Delsar's up for it.
Had a good time with
I
it,
think
though.
Kite's going to be busy this weekend.
That's alright. Well,
That's cool.
We'll
they're
get
doing
at
that.
least something together. Yeah. You're sent to a Malawon black site, and Malawon are the kind of
Techie guys.
main antagonist company in the game, and yeah, they're big tech people. And you have to take down a whole bunch of challenging enemies and stuff, and complete a little campaign in there with the character you show up with. And it also talks about where is it? It going in different stages where you don't get to respawn as well. You'll have to spectate if you go down and don't get
damn.
revived.
It's kind of like Destiny.
Yeah, there's second wins and stuff still, but
That's pretty cool.
yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's split into 2 halves, where it seems in the first half you have to fight your way to the Valkyrie squad. Don't know what they're like yet, looking forward to it. And then the second half, you then have to defeat Wotan the Invincible. And Invincibles are typically raid bosses, hence this is going to be quite a big little fighty fight thing. And I'm super looking forward to it, because I've been wanting to play more Borderlands 3, but I haven't had much to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty substantial.
I hope that it's 2-manable, because
Yeah.
I think you and I, Sarge, are going
Oh,
to
yeah.
be probably attempting it the most.
Yep.
But also, upcoming, they just showed on their Borderlands show later last week. The first actual DLC has been shown too, which
Moxie's
is
heist of the handsome jackpot.
Moxie's heist
I
thing.
saw that actually just yesterday.
And I don't know how I feel about it yet.
Oh.
Because the last ones I've seen, like the Moxie themed like DLCs, never really like grabbed me.
Well, I'm guessing that's mostly from the first game, where the bad taste is left, because it was Moxie's like arena thing, which was a very boring DLC compared to every other DLC that Borderlands has made. It is by far the worst.
There's like
It could be just that.
There's a new location and everything for this one, so that's pretty cool.
It's crazy how much they're doing for this game, because the patch notes as well for the whole Malawon Black site include like a new Mayhem level, an expansion to things, dedicated loot balls, a ton in-game character balance. They are non-stop putting out like patches which are improving the game, and they're doing all this content as well. It's
Maybe.
mad.
I mean, not to this point, obviously. Maybe Bethesda's taking a little page from Borderlands 3 and
I
actually
hope so.
paying more attention to the things that are wrong.
Yeah, well, Borderlands 3 is starting from a much easier point, where the game is fundamentally very good, very fun, very positively viewed.
They also developed it
Not
for
busted at the start.
6 years of development, you know?
Like, they took their time with this, rather than rushing it out. So, now the fact that they're not just sitting on their laurels and going, look at this amazing game, which is down for several Game of the Year awards.
Also, probably not using something with a bunch of legacy bugs. Just I'll throw that out there too. But I thought it was really entertaining that the rebalances had to do with everybody except Amara.
Yeah, Amara's good. Amara's fine.
She's just so good.
Yeah.
And I'm not complaining at all. I just thought it was funny.
No. I actually have made, because I've gone back to character builds recently, I made an Amara character build like a few weeks back, and seeing this patch I was like, oh, I really hope they haven't changed anything significant to Amara which would change the build. No, literally nothing.
Nope.
Plays exactly the same, because
Yep.
Amara's just great.
Yeah, the only thing that was the mind control thingy, the mind control effect that goes on abilities.
Oh yeah.
Or the confuse effect that makes them invulnerable to damage, like after you use it, which makes it completely useless.
I mean, it doesn't make it useless. It's good for saving yourself if things get overwhelming.
Yeah,
But it's not
that
good
also
offensively.
prevents you from using your ability for anything else.
Yeah, personally, I'd be fine with it staying like that, because I think it still has purpose. But if it gets patched, Amara will just be even stronger. Might not be needed, to be fair.
I mean, she does have all those biceps.
Yeah, she really punches stuff. Her other abilities could do with being stronger first, I'd say.
What else is flexing in gaming right now? How about that?
Hey,
Is that better?
that's better.
That's
We can work with that.
All right.
So, the Half-Life Alyx trailer has come out, which is a new Half-Life game. It's not Half-Life 3, but it kind of is, but it isn't. Because it's
Cool to Half-Life 2.
Yeah, it's a Half-Life. They've done a pre-sequel now, which is quite impressive. And I looked at it. I thought it looked pretty cool. It's, for VR, and Half-Life is kind of known for pushing the genre forwards and stuff for first-person shooter kind of actiony, adventure-y, physicsy stuff. So I'm hoping they'll be able to do the same with VR. But my dark secret now, I have never played a Half-Life game. So
That's okay.
yeah,
They're old.
Yeah,
They haven't aged
they were
well
long before my time. I'm the
mechanically.
young hip guy here. So
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not easy to play in the modern day. Like even especially
I go back and think about it, and I'm like, Black Mesa is a thing, isn't it? Yes, it is.
It is, and the game looks prettier, but man, it doesn't make the game any easier to play in 2019.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember the game well enough, even though I beat it when I was a kid, to like remember half the stuff. Every now and then something clicks when I'm playing Mesa, but otherwise I'm just wandering, and I'm just like, wait, did I go through here? Okay, I'll jump back in the water. Oh, okay, I opened a different door. All right, we're still going. I got stuck for like 30 minutes at one point in the game, and I just was like, and then when I figured it out, I was like, oh, wow, I feel dumb. But that's the kind of like game it is, just an old FPS game. It's not even like the fact that there aren't waypoint markers. Like, you can play a first-person shooter, and the game doesn't have to tell you where to go. It's just the way the levels were designed.
I think this was like one of the first, like, along with Deus Ex, kind of. It falls more under like the immersive sim type thing, where it's like meant to be kind of explored at the same time.
Yeah, it's rough.
More so than just shooty.
Yeah, lots of puzzle solving. More puzzle solving than
Yeah.
shooting, and most of the time, lots of platforming, puzzle solving. Yeah, they're just like hard games to go back for. But I'm super hyped.
Lots of, like-
super hyped for Alex.
Like cutscene set pieces too, which is one of the like main
Yeah, lots of story.
like draws for Half-Life. Like the flickering lamp and the scientist with the head crab in the chair. Like
Yeah, you can
Like,
find.
you-
There's lots of environmental.
after you see that,
storytelling.
you don't forget
Yeah,
it.
lots of environmental storytelling in that game.
Or like the dude getting pulled into the ventilation and then just meat chunks coming out. You're just like, something bad's happening.
I mean, those are all reasons I'm really looking forward to Alex 2. Is like Half-Life and Half-Life 2 are very good horror games, actually. Like the entire
Yeah.
Ravenholm level in Half-Life 2 is terrifying. Much of Half-Life 1 is terrifying. Like for games that aren't meant to be survival horror, like there's this really good like constant, impending sense of doom. Like even like all of the enemy types you run up against are just spooky.
Yeah.
It's just creepy. Like the head grabs are obviously creepy, but
There's different
Everything
there's
else.
different levels of fear though too. Like in Half-Life 2, or not Half-Life 2. Well, probably that one too. But when the soldiers start showing up, you're just like, oh,
Combine for sure.
I am so outgunned.
With their little Strider walkers and stuff, like just very
Yeah.
spooky. Like you feel like this is it. It's just me, and they're totally gonna try and kill me right now. Like that's a rare thing, like in a game, to give you that sort of reverse power fantasy. I guess would be the best way to put it, where it's like no, dude, you need to run. Like, you cannot take these people on. Like, most games, especially first-person shooters, are trying to be like, you are everything. Just kill thousands of guys. Half-Life's like not that, but yeah.
I think that's what makes it like it puts it in that immersive sim too, because Prey kind of works the same way as well.
Yeah.
It's like, especially at the beginning, you're not supposed to try and fight everything. You're going to die.
Yeah, they want you to run away sometimes. That's true. Yeah, I think Alex is going to be incredibly spooky. Most of the things I've played in VR that are even remotely spooky are extra freaking terrifying in VR. Like Arizona Sunshine,
and because
has an entire nighttime segment when you're in the caves, the underground mining area in VR, and it's just like.
I still haven't played that myself, and I have it installed.
It's a good game, man. Like, the nighttime, the one where you're in the dark too, I think was probably like the moment for me where like my immersion got maxed out because it's so dark. It's really easy to feel detached from the real world. You're just holding a flashlight and a pistol, and you can't see anything except where that flashlight is pointing, and you're just shooting zombies, and it's like mind-blowing stuff. But yeah, I was really impressed with everything we saw with
that. Does sound like fun.
Alex. I think the visual fidelity of Alex 2 is really impressive for a VR game.
Yeah.
Like, it's up there with like games that are out now. Like, you know, it's not shooting for photorealism, but just the level of quality on like the effects work, which is I think an area that is notoriously more challenging for VR developers. Like, you see a lot of particle effects in there, just like the atmospherics are really heavy. I'm just super happy Valve's like making another Half-Life.
I still am wondering if it's going to look that good.
I think it will.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
I mean, obviously it's gonna have, like, depending on your headset, you know, you're gonna have a certain level of clarity if you're running an Index.
I think that's going to be a factor.
And depending on the GPU you have, but there's a lot of VR games that look really like Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. Even on my Vive, like I can run that on its ultra settings at like a 100 hertz or whatever, like way up there, and it looks amazing. Like, the game looks really good. Like, yeah, it doesn't have all the crazy environmental effects and stuff like that, but that's kind of the point of Source 2, apparently, too. And I know some VR devs I was talking to who are like, they don't actually, while they've known about Half-Life, this game for like the last 4 years, they don't really know anything about the inner workings of Source 2. So a lot of them are like, wow, like that looks really impressive. Like, regardless of it being out of headset, it looks really impressive. They're all curious as to like what sort of optimization Source 2 might have for VR. So it'll be interesting to see for sure, because Source on its own, current version of Source is an incredibly well optimized platform. You know, like games can look amazing in Source. I mean, Titanfall is based off a modified version of the Source engine. That game, you know, has come a long way visually. Titanfall 2 especially. So yeah, hyped for that. I understand people's disappointment that it's not VR for people who want, like, you know, a 2D pancake game, but I just couldn't be more happy to see like that company with that brand pushing, like, you know, helping kind of like establish VR more, because
it's because I think that was my first reaction to it too. I'm like, oh my goodness, VR is gonna be on the map for a while.
Oh, it's gonna help for sure, man. I think it's gonna sell. Like, I already own a headset. I have a Vive, but I've been sitting there looking at the Index for like since it released, and this is a game where I'm like, well, you just sold an Index. Like, by next year, January, I will have purchased an Index with the Knuckles controllers. Like, there are gonna be people out there who realize like their rig's already relatively powerful enough. Like, do it, you know. And my suggestion to people who play, like, I have a lot of friends who play in really beefy PC rigs, but they also play console games. Well, with the next gen, everything on the Microsoft platform is going to be available on PC day one. Like, all of their first-party stuff is cross-platform, cross-play, cross-buy. Like, there's no reason for me to buy a Scorpio. I might as well just put that money towards a new VR headset, you know? Like,
there you go.
I don't know. To me, it's like VR, especially for first-person stuff and shooters, is absolutely the next step forward. Like, people can sit there and rave about, like, photorealistic graphics all day long, but nothing touches like first person, full interactivity, you know, picking stuff up with your hands, and like it's it. Yeah. It's the thing.
And I implore like anybody, most of the time when I talk about VR too, and Sarge has heard this probably many times, that like if you have the opportunity to try VR and you have not, please do yourself a favor and do it. I use the mall near us as an example. They have a VR shop like set up there, where you can, you know, play something on VR for like, you know, $5 for 2 minutes or something like that. And they have like Beat Saber and a few other games. Beat Saber was the only one that like interested me because I wanted other people to try it.
Yeah.
I was like, I can toss $5 down and get another customer to come in and watch and then be interested. So I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
Like,
once you play it, like the only people I know who think VR is like just a big tech demo, or that it's not as good as people say it is, are people who haven't actually played it. Once you do it,
it's so good.
like everybody in my family, all of Michelle's family, our New Year's Eve tradition is we have everybody over here for New Year's Eve, and everybody just comes up in my office and just plays VR until the bell
yes.
tolls.
That's what we do
Like,
too.
that's it. And
when we
like,
have people
everybody
over.
just has like their mind blown, or they get spooked out. We have people just do like some of the silly stuff, like the plank walk. I have people play more serious stuff, and they just walk away like, I was someplace else. Like Michelle's dad did it this last year for the first time. It was literally just like, wow, it's just like I kind of forgot where I was. Like he couldn't
That's
believe
VR.
he was blown away. So yeah, 100% what you were saying, Caedo. Like Microsoft Store always has demos, and they're at like all of them. So if you have a Microsoft Store near you, just go there. They always have like an Oculus or a Vive. They probably have indexes sitting around now. Like
Yeah,
but-
I think Best Buy sometimes has demos up
absolutely
too.
check it out.
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna try to sell VR headsets and stuff. That'll be my first brand deal, freaking Vive or Oculus or something.
That'd be a dope brand.
Or Index. Yeah. All right. So after trying to plug you buying stuff, let's talk about buying other stuff in Fallout 4 Creation Club.
Nah.
What are they really? Why are they releasing Fallout 4 stuff? What?
Yeah. So maybe this is a setup. I'm gonna say this is a setup for something else they plan on doing Fallout related, and maybe trying to save their own skin a little bit. But they recently put out this is a sneak peek, obviously. But one of the DLCs already came out, which was the Capital Wasteland Mercenaries, which takes you back to GNR in the DC Wasteland to do a short quest and get some of the Wasteland outfits. And as far as I could tell, they were all 4 of them were like legendaries too. They had like legendary effects on them and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that's pretty neat.
And it also had some backstory stuff with a new DJ. Three Dog's not there anymore. He disappeared somewhere into the wasteland.
I killed him. I remember
dis-
distinctly.
Disappointingly,
I'm
I
wearing
did
his
too.
bandana now.
It's a good bandana to take from him. But I think it was, I can't remember the price on it. I think it was like the like 700-ish of whatever the name of the currency is. So like around $8 or something like that for the DLC. In Mr. Matty Plays video, like he played it and then said what he thought about it. He's like, this still feels like they're charging a little bit too much for what's here.
That's the Bethesda way.
And that's like something I kind of expected anyway. But what I'm also like wondering is that going back and using some of these like nostalgia based items and locations is if they're like gearing up to do a remaster or just sticking to like using bait to get us to come back.
Yeah, I don't think.
Kind of thing.
I have a hard time believing they're gonna remaster Fallout 3, even though I know I feel like the rumors have been going on now for like how long. Mm-hmm. Just because I don't feel like they're that company anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I just think like the fact that they're even selling premium cosmetics is crazy at this point. Like you don't have any agency, man, for that. You're wild.
Yeah.
It's like I mean, for the most part, like regardless of Fallout 76, like I'm not even doing this as like, oh, Fallout 76 came out, it was bad, whatever, broken thing. No, it's just everything else they've done as a company is what's actually been bad. Like Fallout 76 could have been worse than it was at launch, and they still could have better, like a better, you know, what do you want to call it? A better standing with their community than they currently have, had they not done all of the other crap they've done. Like, it's
that's how they lost me as a creator.
yeah,
for making
it's just
making any future content on 76.
any sense like the idea of like, oh yeah, we're gonna put out all this cosmetic. Why don't you just put it in the game?
Yeah.
If you really want to win people back, release a free mini expansion that takes you back to DC that allows you to acquire these things because they exist in DC, not because you did one mission and then now you're gonna sell a bunch of stuff to people. Like it's not how you do it, man.
Yeah, Bethesda does seem to be going all in on the what can we do that will make us money rather than
ZeniMax
what can we do that improves
will be the death of them. Like Activision will probably be the death of Blizzard. Like they're two like massive corporate heads that are just terrible. They're just business people.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's a lead into something else. Like that's like I know that's a lot. Like my capacity for said hope is not very high. But there's a minor hope, but no expectation for it really.
Yeah.
But with that, anyway, we do have a Fallout topic we talk about on like we've kind of made it a regular thing. I went back through all the previous Fallout topics just to see if we're not repeating, and most of the PIPCasts do have a neat Fallout topic, and we haven't doubled up yet.
Yep.
So that's a good thing. 23 episodes, man, doing pretty good. So our topic for this episode is mutants and mutations, and I think it was Sarge that added the how the mutations have been implemented in the games, what more could be done with mutations in the future, and what's realistic versus what's fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, I ended up going back to the Fallout 2 one like immediately when we started talking about it before we started recording, which was in Fallout 2, if you go through like high radiation areas or walk through green goo, you can get a bunion on your foot that turns out to be an extra toe, which is like technically a mutation, and you can get that toe removed, and that toe can increase your maximum HP, if I remember correctly. There was a rumor going around where you could one-shot the final boss with it, but that's not true. But yeah, so I guess that's I wouldn't call the eating it part realistic, but the developing an extra toe is the whole process is rather entertaining because the game is describing to you what's happening. It's like your foot really itches. And then later it's just like, oh, that bunion has turned into a toe. You should probably get it checked out. Like it's cheeky throughout the entire thing, and I love it. But it still took a realistic approach to it.
Whereas on the flip side, 76 just kind of goes, what is fun gameplay wise? Oh, jumping 4 times higher. Let's have marsupial in there.
Yeah.
And
Or the bird bones, like combining those two.
the slower full speed and higher jumping.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
It gets really, really ridiculous.
and 76 as well has like the most mutations because they properly implemented it as a full gameplay feature, as opposed to like the Fallout 2 one or Fallout 3. You get one with the Moira taking radiation there. There's been mutations in the past of a player character, but 76 is where they just went, yeah, let's make it a fun thing to have. And I think it's genuinely one of the best parts about 76. And regardless of whether or not you're a fan of the game, I think everyone who sees bits and bobs of it can be like, oh, that's cool. So
Yeah, it's definitely a plus in 76's favor. As little as it has, especially right now. I do like the setting too myself, but the mutations themselves kind of took on the role of traits because you don't get to choose those anymore in the newer Fallout games. Like Fallout New Vegas was the last game to do that.
Yeah.
So taking traits and turning it into more of a random factor, unless you can afford the mutation serums and or their recipes.
Yeah.
Like, and that part's fun too. Just like when we first started playing 76, I remember us having fun with the random factor and being like, I'm just gonna sit in radiation for like an hour and see what happens.
Just a group of people standing in a puddle drinking it non-stop, seeing what happens to them.
Yeah, and that part was fun too. And then the first time you accidentally use like Radaway, and then lose the one you wanted to hold on to, and then hold on to the one you wanted to lose, like and then having a perk to actually make sure they stay where they are too, which is nice.
And various other perks which actually build around being mutated or having a team mutated.
Yeah, the modifiers.
It's cool.
Class freak and something else.
Strange in numbers.
Yeah,
Good
those
stuff.
ones are great. I can't remember if there's anything like not FEV related. Like I wanted to have a list of creatures that were like involved with FEV, and then the ones that were just like wasteland based. Because I think rad scorpions, like I think those are just radiation oriented, like for how big they got. The giant ants, I think it's depending on locale. Like the ants in Fallout 2 and Fallout 4, which is a weird spread, I think those ones are just radiation affected, whereas the ones in Fallout 3, the fire ants, and I think there was another spot where they were experimented on, but they were both FEV experiments. So, and then Dr. Lesko, which I looked up right before we started recording too, which provided the player character with an FEV-based serum that would give you a mutation based on the fire ants, which was ant sight or ant might. Strength or perception increase, and fire resistance, which is a nice... Fallout 3 was very generous with its attribute boosts.
Yeah.
Of course, 76 went ham with it, but... That's just cap it at 15, it's fine. Soft cap.
Yeah, it's a soft cap, because you can raise it to 15 maximum on special, and then raise it to about 5 million from aid and armor and legendary effects.
Yeah, unyielding is fun, by the way. Berserk build. Did you have any mutations or mutants that you preferred or liked or identify, Tony?
No, not really. I don't think I played enough of the game to really have the mutations take enough of like a noticeable effect on my character, to be honest. I probably have a few that I just wasn't even aware of. I think I did the one for what's like the one you could force just by like having super low HP all the time? I can't remember.
Oh, that's legendary effects. It would be with like bloodied and unyielding. But there is a mutation which lowers your max health and raises damage, which I can't remember the name of.
That might be like the only one I wanted for, but yeah, I just didn't mess around with those enough. I like that they went all crazy with them because it kind of fits the rest of the game being kind of over the top.
Oh, I think he's talking about adrenal reaction.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah. That's the one where the more health damage you take, the more damage you deal.
Yeah, that's the one.
And radiation can affect it too, because can I just say the radiation effects in Fallout 4 onwards are great. I think we've mentioned this before. Like grouping it into like a health bar oriented thing instead of like two separate things is awesome.
It does actually force you to deal with it. Like I played some Fallout 3 a week or two ago, and I was like, oh, I've taken some radiation damage. Oh, I've got 50 Radaway because I never have to use them. Oh look, I'm fine again.
I like the health bar oriented radiation thing too. Okay, so what about mutants and mutated creatures that have been created via FEV? FEV is like the midichlorians of the Fallout universe, or the plot juice.
Yeah.
At least one of them. And there's so many different strains of FEV throughout the entire series. You got the one that President Eden gives you, that's just like a reverse engineered FEV that just kills anything that's been mutated by radiation.
Yeah.
And then you have the crazy FEV that can turn, Jackson's chameleons into terrifying death machines. Death claws.
Yep.
And then you have the weird experiments that mutants do to make their dogs, which is, the centaurs and the mutant hounds that we find later in Fallout 4. Why don't we go on like a favorite mutated thing kind of discussion? Why don't we go that direction?
Each pick our favourite mutant or mutant creature, I guess.
Yeah.
That'd be a bit more concise.
Because otherwise I might be the only person talking to which I don't want to be.
Alright, I'll kick it off, because mine's going to be the classic. My favourite mutant is the super mutants, because first off, they seem close-ish to realistic, but also whilst being a bit out there. Because they are just really, really strong and tough humans with a few downsides. Mainly some lack of intelligence later on, and being impotent. So they have to kind of force others to becoming mutants rather than making new ones themselves in the normal way.
Yeah, it's out of necessity, and somehow they all know that they need to dip or shower humans in FEV to keep making more of them.
Yeah. Well, that's a natural thing. It's natural for animals to want to reproduce, and I'm sure mutants are just born with that as their natural thing, rather than getting all bow chicka wow wow. They're just like, oh, green goo, yeah.
They evolved to know it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I like the super mutants. I feel that they're a really good staple of enemies. I feel like it's because they're almost like based off of orcs. I feel like the comparisons there are too strong.
Yeah.
Like, it's corrupting a race to make them green and big and muscular. Like, we've seen it before. There's a reason it sticks around so well. It's just a good solid way to make a baddie.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
And also, they seem more tenacious than say the Enclave.
I think I like them too because they're not like as one-dimensional as the Enclave is either. Like, well, the super mutants are kind of the bad guys. They're also just kind of peoples, like trying to be, and we do get to interact with them on a positive note, numerous times in the games, which I think is cool because they come across more as just like a. They're not, they're not like just a straight up like. They're more like Klingons in Star Trek.
They're not a single faction.
Yeah, and they're not just like.
Yeah.
Oh, they're all bad, they're not like it's not like the Romulans or something in Star Trek. They're way more like the Klingons, there's some bad blood between them, but then we also have like a lot of these positive interactions with them. And I'd like to think that like if the narrative continued to progress like in a story with the super mutants, there'd be some sort of a positive like endpoint interaction between much of the survivors and the super mutants against the Enclave, against anybody, any like remaining fascist type organization still trying to oppress the people of the wastelands. They're definitely more interesting than just like boom, bad guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And it had I know they were kind of shoehorned in Fallout 4, but like Fallout without mutants is like not hard to call Fallout. Like there has to be kind of an origin point for them in each game.
Yeah, even in 76, they're kind of just the same issue as 4, right? They kind of just plop them in there.
Yeah. There's a West Tech facility that was experimenting on a town, and suddenly there was mutants, and they have vats. Like it's
that one bugs me more.
Yeah, it's unfortunate they don't do more with them.
Especially seeing as the time frame for the Master is so close as well. Like if they were just able to set Fallout 76 like a decade or two later, you could be like, oh yeah, mutants happen to just travel over here. You could kind of get away with it, but because it's so close, you just kind of have to go, no, they were made at the same time the Master was making them. Oh, what a coincidence.
Yeah, the Institute, I mean that makes more, they just did weird experiments all the time.
Yeah.
Not always justifying them very well, which is one of my main complaints about the Institute is how they justify things, which is not really at all.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't necessarily love Bethesda's writing work over the last. I don't know. I'm not gonna bash them. They're just not exceptionally talented when it comes to writing these narratives because they have, like you're talking about the super mutants, they have like a really powerful sandbox of characters. And
they have
factions, that have been built up over a decade plus now, more than that. But their games have never been hyper strong narratively for me. Like the strongest one, of course, is the one they didn't make.
But it's also like wondering if you're going all the way back to like experimenting on like creating death claws, like cool, but it failed almost every single time, and they keep doing it, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's kind of, I guess, what.
But it even happens in the classic games, like.
Yeah, there's a frustrating lack of like progression in the Fallout narratives, I would say, since the game's decided, to like continue on. 3, New Vegas, 4 now, and 76 is like. Yeah. There's not really like an overarching story, which I think is, like. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like you always hope for that, right? Like in any game you play, even if you're getting a new character, like, look at the Mass Effect series, the story is always kind of progressing, right? Which is maybe why people didn't like Andromeda as much as well, because it was more like this restart point for the narrative, which, that kind of works from the perspective of like the end of 3, but it's also like a big restart. Fallout's never even had that. It's just kind of like we're just going and doing these stories, and like very little feels like it carries the overall narrative forward.
And we're including these ingredients because it's Fallout.
Just have to.
It's a bit of a shame as well, because you had in the first Fallout mutants being created by the Master and all that. If you didn't have mutants in 76, then each game would be kind of chronological, and in Fallout 4 you have a character, Virgil, who makes a mutation curing serum, so you could have the start of super mutants being created, and then Fallout 4 you've suddenly hit a point where this can be cured as such, and then you could have it arc as the journey of super mutants over a few hundred years, how they start, how they can then have the choice of either being cured or living their life as this creature which will not be able to reproduce. And you could have definitely made a good overarching narrative with that, but it would go between like 3 different companies, so probably not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like 76 could have saved itself a lot of trouble by just being a not even like a reboot, just say it exists in its own timeline.
We talked last time, I think, about the fact there's still plenty of VR theories about it, where it's not actually real, it's just a simulation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Just anything.
Where it's everything they showed in those little Vault Boy cartoons. The people in 76 are still inside the vault.
Yeah, because
experiencing
they could have
things.
at that point, because 76 could have been a starting point for. I mean, I don't know. It's obvious that 76 was a very mashed together idea of things, so I'm not gonna like sit here and be like, oh, they should have done this and they could have reset this narrative. It's like no point. But yeah.
I think because Dr. Braun is referenced in Vault 51, right? I'm pretty sure.
I don't know all the lore.
And his experiments. I've only played Nuclear Winter a little bit, but the whole thing like makes it definitely sound like that's what it is. So that basically helps with that argument that it is, at least Vault 51 in its entirety is a simulation, which it kind of lends to that already.
Yeah.
As a mechanic. But yeah. Anyway, did you say which ones you didn't like, Sarge? Which mutants?
No, because I didn't think of that.
Do we want to go with all of us like saying what we like first, and then?
I was just going to leave it as just like, because
I
I
don't
am
really know
taking
anybody.
attention to the time.
I don't know anybody other than I can't say there's like a group of mutants that I'd actively dislike. My problem would be what we already talked about, is that I like a lot of the things the game does. I just don't think that they do the best job always of implementing them narratively.
Yeah, the reason for them being there, which
or how they interact with the player. Like the super mutants didn't even need to be in 76 in reality. Like I get they're a staple, but they just made them things you shoot at.
No, that's true.
Plug in anything else, it was like they're just trying to like hold on to some fan service there, but really it's just like I get more frustrated by the fact that they exist as just like cannon fodder than anything.
Yeah, I think that puts the question of like Deathclaws too, actually, but because Deathclaws
they also were never gonna build new mutants though for a game that they probably threw together in a year and a half. So
yeah,
understand.
They did at least make a lot of cool new creatures.
There is
which cryptids, they probably could have
It's true.
They probably could have got by with most of the new stuff.
That's true.
Especially if they made way more Scorched. Just replace all the super mutants with Scorched.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Have different variants of Scorch as well, and you'd be fine.
You mean like a tank and a smoker and a jockey?
Yeah, I was thinking along those lines, but
like
maybe something a bit safer.
Bear,
Yeah. Well, you already do have the animals getting the Scorch disease as well.
Yeah,
so you do come across like the Scorch Yaguai and stuff, but even just different human variants.
Yeah, Yaguai are currently broken though.
They are pretty strong.
I think they're still broken.
Yeah.
Are they all like? Do they all spawn in a field together and just play patty cake all day long or something?
I wish they did, honestly, because that would be more fun to me than fighting one. Fighting it with a gun is fine, but if they get into like melee range, there's nothing you could do about the amount of times that they can stagger you.
Oof.
Yeah.
It's got like a mega stagger even if you're blocking. There's no. And I think I had tried it with a different weapon too, because people are like, "Oh, just block it," as if they had ever tried.
Yeah, because blocking works so well in a game with dodgy latency as well.
Oh, it does. 100% of the time. It's all about timing.
Yep.
But yeah. So the Yaogwai are cool mutants, by the way. I will say that. Cool mutated creatures. If it's not just Deathclaws that bring terror, like when you see them in the Wasteland, it's the Yaogwai as well. And in Fallout 4, even the glowing ones, they look really cool. I think I might go with Yaogwai because Deathclaws was one of my answers on a previous thing, like favorite enemies or something like that. Because Deathclaws, they're like mutants, a staple.
Yeah.
But Yaogwai are relatively new to the series, so I think I would go with Yaogwai without thinking too hard on it at the same time. And I want to ride one. Make that a vehicle in the game instead.
Do it, Bethesda. Rideable animals.
Yeah, tame Yaogwai. You can become an animal friend. Why not? Why not ride them?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Tony?
For another mutant?
What kind of mutant?
I did the same thing as Sarge. I think it's super mutants for sure. Yeah.
Oh, super mutants.
100%. There's definitely a lot of cool ones in the world of whatchamacallit, but super mutants for sure for me, for all the reasons we were talking about. Just good faction for sure.
Mutants themselves, yeah. There's so much super mutants. There's so much potential for like extra that people writing a story about Fallout can do with them, as opposed to I guess the closest would also be Deathclaws, because there was talking Deathclaws at a couple of points in the series that had their own tribes going on.
I didn't,
you didn't know that?
I've never seen those.
Fallout 2 was the first instance of talking Deathclaws. They were extra experimental experiments that the Enclave were doing. They ended up taking over Vault 13 during Fallout 2, and then like once you discover Vault 13, you're like, oh crap, it's taken over by Deathclaws, because that's like your first reaction to it. But then they start speaking to you, and you think you're in some kind of drug trance from the jet you took. But in fact, it's actually Deathclaws that have their own society that, they have actually made friends with some humans, so they don't like kind of wander into town trying to trade with people, and they just open fire on them. But then eventually, like, they all get taken out anyway by the Enclave. So technically, the talking Deathclaws were supposed to end there. But one of them, Goris, ends up being a party member because he was out, like, I think gathering herbs or something like that while they were all slaughtered. And he's a gray, or an albino Deathclaw that has a cloak that he, like throws off when combat starts and then puts back on afterwards. Probably one of the cooler companions in the game, or in all the games. And then in Fallout Tactics, there's intelligent woolly Deathclaws, which don't really have any explanation.
That sounds right.
Yeah, a lot of things don't really have too much of a backstory explanation in Fallout Tactics. It's just fun, nonsensical violence. That's our Fallout topic. What do you like about mutants and stuff? People in the comments. I'm losing momentum, and I apologize.
It's okay.
I'm getting kind of tired too.
Probably about time to do a quick wrap up. So Caedo, what is upcoming on your channel that people should be excited for, and what might they have missed that they should be watching?
Well, I did the energy weapons top 10 list. It's performed about as good as I expected, like all the other ones. So you can expect more of those. If you didn't check out the energy weapons top 10, it's an all-encompassing list of the energy weapons in Fallout New Vegas. So if you want to see what the best energy weapons are, you might be surprised as to which ones are in the top 3. I feel like number 1's pretty much a given, but top 3 might be surprised.
Those are the non-energy weapons.
I fixed the title.
Yep.
There was a non-energy in the in parentheses in the title at the start because I copy pasted from another title. That's what happens when you make a lot of videos in the same format. But also I have planned a Outer Worlds list video sometime soon. I have the list written down. I just have to motivate myself to actually go in game and find those things because saving at particular points is required for this list. So I'm gonna have to dig up those save files because I have saved in a lot of spots. It's just a little bit more extra work, and there's no console commands as far as I know in the Outer Worlds either, so that makes it a little more challenging. But yeah, and as to what I had played, Death Stranding obviously, and I finished Dark Cloud. I was talking about it last PIPCAST, and I also finished Dark Cloud 2. So I've finished 3 games in the past 2 weeks. Definitely
a lot.
Definitely taking a bit of a mental vacation, I would say, from like actual like video creation stuff. But it has been fun all the way through. I don't regret going back to Dark Cloud 2, especially after playing the first game and learning to appreciate it a different way. And played 76 with you, Sarge, and Union and Eric.
Yeah,
So
as
that was
aforementioned.
Yes. Okay. What about you, Tony?
Not really working on anything. I've been playing. Obviously, we talked about Death Stranding. Finished that. I played the new Star Wars game, the Respawn Star Wars game. It's actually really good. Strongly recommend, especially. I mean, the nice thing about that game is the difficulty can be tuned, so you can play it more like it's Sekiro. It's a very parry-focused combat system. Probably like some of the best lightsaber combat in a Star Wars game ever. Like, period. It's super satisfying. Like all the audio design and the effects, phenomenal. It was just a really good game. And BD1 is like top-tier droid. He's
Nice.
better than the main character Cal. Like, all of my emotions in that game were all about BD1 than they were about Cal. Especially when you find out BD1's backstory, a little droid has done more for like the future of the Jedi than like half the characters in Star Wars canon. So,
Wow.
pretty cool. Definitely recommend that game. It's like 18 hours on the second hardest difficulty. That's without like doing all the exploration stuff. So it's also a nice, reasonably paced game, unlike Death Stranding and Red Dead Redemption 2, which also came out on PC recently. Definitely good. Other than that, what else did I play? I've been playing Path of Exile and WoW, actually. Just need to like change of pace from all the Call of Duty I played for like the last 3 weeks on the side.
Is that like modern WoW
Yeah, I
or
haven't been
WoW
playing
Classic?
Classic. I don't have time for that. I made a character in Classic.
But the grind, man.
Just for the kicks, and I talked to my buddy about Classic while we're playing Modern, but like, I just wish that like Modern WoW could get like somewhere in between Classic and Modern in terms of like difficulty and stuff, because we were running we did a couple like level 15 dungeons on our new characters we're playing. It's just so like walk in the park easy. Like WoW standard WoW has the same problem like Destiny 2 vanilla had, where some of the content like it's just way too easy. Like, it's not helping anyone by being that easy, you know? Like, new players aren't actually benefiting from that. They're gonna get spanked eventually, you know?
Yeah.
And like other people who just want to actually enjoy early game content are like, wow, this is like the set pieces and the dungeons themselves are fun, but they're just not challenging enough. Same thing with like, you play Classic and you actually have to like eat food and drink water, and then in Modern it's like I'm playing a Warlock and I don't even use my mana doesn't even drain ever at level 20. What's the point? So yeah,
That sounds.
I've been enjoying the game. I
a
just
bit
wish
easy.
I've just been playing some more chill stuff, I guess.
Good. I think we're good for the rest of the day. The rest of these 2 weeks. Let us know in the comments if you have anything to contribute or say about the topics we discussed. If we missed anything, most importantly, probably for me, like, I'm sure I missed something somewhere as a talking point, because I've been like kind of phasing in and out of consciousness almost, it feels like. Tony, is there like a social thing that people can talk to you on if they're interested or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to poke me at Twitter, I'm just Tony Mo over there, like Tony_Mo.
Is it the TONEY?
Yeah, that's right.
Underscore?
It's the TONEY _ Mo.
Okay.
Always,
Yeah, because I always get confused.
always
now.
down to ramble about games. Is usually all I do, anyways. Dog pictures, rambling about games, and occasional politics, and that's pretty much it. So, if you Cool with those three things. That's it.
Nice. Awesome. If you want to help support the channel and support me as a, let's use that indie word, indie content creator type person, the Patreon is here and in the description. We also have merch for Caedo Genesis stuff. You can get a cool Wasteland Advisor t-shirt. That's the me stuff. Sarge, you got a Patreon?
So instead of just checking me out on Patreon, you should first check out youtube.com/BADCompanySarge, which is obviously my channel, where I've been doing Fallout videos, Skyrim videos, various other stuff. There's a lot of games coming out, about to come out, and tons of stuff to cover. The channel's going for a soft reboot now as well, so definitely check it out. Give me views, please. Me want views.
That's good. That's a good plug. I like it. If you like what you heard and stuff, share it with people who you think might be interested, because we like more people coming in and talking to us and interacting with us about these topics, because that's why we do it. I do it every other week, so I can BS with Sarge and potentially a guest, this time Tony Mo, who's awesome, and all of you in the comments section if you feel the need. So with that, I hope you all have a safe journey and are also taking care of yourselves. See you in 2 weeks in the next PIPCAST.